The Acts of Andrew, the double fragment of Euodius, and Andrew in prison. From the Apocryphal Acts of Paul, Peter, John, Andrew, and Thomas, by Bernhard PICK. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. The Acts of Andrew, 1. The double fragment, by Euodius. A. Listen what you hear in the Acts of Lucius, which he wrote under the name of the apostles concerning Maximilla, the wife of Aegetes. As she would not give to her husband what she owed to him, though the apostle said, "Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence," and likewise also the wife unto the husband, she substituted her maid Euclia, supplying her with repugnant adornment and attire, and in the night made her her substitute, so that her husband, without knowing it, went into her as to his wife. B. We also read there that when Maximilla and Iphidamia went to hear Andrew the apostle, a beautiful boy, whom Lucius regarded as a god, or at least as an angel, delivered them to Andrew, and then went to the praetorium of Aegetes. He there entered her bedchamber, and imitated the voices of women, as if Maximilla were complaining of the sufferings of the female sex, and Iphidamia were answering. Upon hearing this, Aegetes, thinking that the women were there, went away. 2. Andrew in prison. The beginning of this text is missing. It begins, "Are ye all so slack? Are ye not yet convinced of yourselves, that ye are not yet carrying his goodness? Let us reverently rejoice with one another over the rich communion which we have with him. Let us say among ourselves, Happy is our generation, by whom is it loved? Blessed our existence, of whom did it receive compassion. We are not prostrated, since we are known from such a height. We belong not to time, but to afterward, destroyed by it. We are not the product of moving, to be again annihilated by it, nor of earthly generation, to return again to earth. We belong to that greatness after which we follow, and to him who pities us. We belong to the better. Therefore we run away from the baser. We belong to the noble, by whom we reject the ignoble, to the righteous, by whom we thrust away the unrighteous, to the merciful, by whom we repel the unmerciful, to the Savior, by whom we have known the destroyer, to the light, by which we banished the darkness, to the one, by whom we removed the many, to the heavenly, by whom we perceived the earthly, to the permanent, by whom we understood the transient. If we, as he deserves it, resolve to pay the God, who had mercy upon us, with thanksgiving or trust, with praises or glorifications, let us glory before him of nothing more than that we are known of him. 2. Having said these things to the brethren, he dismissed every one to his house, and said to them, As servants of Christ, you shall neither be forsaken by me for the sake of the love which is in him, nor shall I also be forsaken by you because of his mediatorship. And each returned to his house. And there was joy among them for many days, during which Aegetes did not think of instituting proceedings against the apostle. Thus every one was confirmed in the faith in the Lord. And though they all met fearlessly in the prison, together with Maximilla and Iphidamia and the others, they unceasingly considered the love and mercy of the Lord. 3. One day when Aegeates sat in judgment, he remembered the case against Andrew, and like a madman he abandons the case before him, leaves the seat, and runs to the praetorium, the official residence. He passionately addresses Maximilla with flatteries, which had reached the house before him coming from prison. 4. And coming to her, he said, Thy parents, Maximilla, deemed me worthy to become thy husband, and gave thee to me in marriage, without regard to riches, descent, or glory, but on account of the nobility of my heart. Not to mention many things, what I meant to tell to thy shame, not to mention the good which I received from thy parents, and which thou didst receive from me all our life, I came here, leaving the court, to hear one thing from thee. Answer therefore intelligently. If thou wert, as formerly, lived with me in an intimate manner, slept with me, and would unite with me to procreate children, I should then please thee in every respect. Yea, I will do still more, and set free the stranger whom I have in prison. But if thou refusest, I shall do no harm to thee, for this is not in my power. But him whom thou lovest the most, more than thou lovest me, I shall torment the more. Consider therefore both, and give me thy decision tomorrow, for I am fully prepared for it. 5. Having thus spoken, he went away. At the usual hour, Maximilla and Iphidamia went to Andrew, and putting his hands before her face, she kissed them, and she told them what Aegeates had said. And Andrew answered, I understand, Maximilla, my dear child, that thou art so excited, and that the demand of conjugal intercourse is repugnant to thee, who wishest to keep away from an impure and filthy conduct. And this separation was enjoined upon thee long ago by thy view. Now thou wishest to have my opinion also for a testimony. I adjure 3, Maximilla, do it not. Submit not to the threat of Aegeates. Be not persuaded by him. Fear not his infamous designs. Be not decided by his flattering or winning ways. Yield not to his unclean delusions. But suffer every trial which he puts on thee, and look a little at us, and thou shalt see how he wholly flags and wastes away, far from thee and those who are inwardly related to thee. And what I indeed should have told thee, for I rest not to accomplish the task seen and imposed by thee, has escaped me. Yea, justly I see in thee repenting Eve, and in me converting Adam. For what she suffered unknowingly, thou, to whose soul I address my words, being converted, bringest to a happy end. And what the spirit suffered, being dragged down by her, became unfaithful to itself, I now settle with thee, which perceivest that thou art drawn upwards. Of what she was ill thou hast cured, without suffering the same. And wherein she was disobedient, in that thou didst obey. And what he yielded, I flee. And wherein they were deceived, we have known. For it is appointed that each should make amends for his case. 6. I said as I meant, but could say yet the following. Well for thee, nature of man, that thou art saved in spite of thy weakness, without being hidden. Well for thee, soul, which didst cry what thou hast suffered, and hast found the way again to thyself. Well for thee, man, who knowest that which is not thine, and longest after thine own. well for thee, that thou hearest the things which were spoken. For I conceive that thou art greater than can be thought of or expressed. For I know that thou art mightier than those which seem to have power over thee, that thou art more glorious than those which brought thee into disgrace, than those which imprisoned thee. Having carefully considered all this in thyself, O man, that thou art immaterial, holy, light, related to the uncreated, rational, heavenly, transparent, pure, exalted over flesh, world, dominions, and powers, above whom thou art, having conceived thyself in the condition, take also along the knowledge in which thou art prevalent. And when thou hast seen thy face in thy essence, break all bonds. I mean not those which belong to thine own origin, but those which lie beyond thy origin, for which we laid down for thee enormous denominations, and long to see him who has revealed himself unto thee, the uncreated, whom thou shalt soon see alone. 7. This, Maximilla, I say with respect to thee, for according to their meaning, my words refer to thee, as Adam lived in Eve, because he completely yielded to her, thus I also live now in thee, since thou obeyest the commandment of the Lord, and livest a life worthy of thy essence. But the threats of Aegeates despise in the consequence that we have a God who has mercy upon us. Let the verbosity of that man also not influence thee, but remain chaste, and let him revenge himself on me not only through the torture in prison, but let him also cast me to the wild beasts, burn me at the stake, throw me down the precipice. What more can be done to me? Since it concerns this body, let him do with it as he pleases, since it is related to him. 8. My word, Maximilla, concerns thee again. I say to thee, yield not to Aegeates, resist his designs, especially as I have seen the Lord, Maximilla, whose voice was to me, the father of Aegeates, the devil, shall deliver thee from this prison. Therefore, let it be thy care to keep thyself in future chaste and pure, holy, undefiled, sincere, discreet, not consenting to the persuasive attempts of our enemy, inviolated, infrangible, unbroken, unwounded, undivided, not giving offense, without part in Cain's works. For if thou, Maximilla, resignest not thyself to the opposite conduct, I shall also rest, since I am obliged to leave this life for thee, that is, for me. But should I be driven hence, whereas I could help other souls related to me through thee, and thou yieldest to the persuasive arts of Aegeates and the alluring arts of his father, the serpent, and turnest again to thy former way, know that I shall suffer on thy account, till thou hast seen thyself, that I refused to live longer for any unworthy soul. 9. I beseech thee, therefore, to endure in the sense which becomes the wise. I pray thy invisible mind to keep with thee. I beseech thee, love the Lord Jesus, yield not to the baser. Assist me also, when as man I call for help, that I become perfect. Help me also, that thou mayest know thy true nature. Suffer with my affliction, that thou mayest know what I suffer, and thou shalt escape affliction. See what I see, and what thou seest will blind thee. See that which is needful, and what is not needful thou shalt not see. Listen to that which I say, and what thou hast heard reject. 10. These things I spoke to thee and to every hearer who listened to me. And thou, Stratocles, with these words he looked at him, why dost thou shed so many tears and weepest thou? What sadness has overtaken thee? What meaneth thy great affliction or thy great grief? Dost thou understand my words, and why I ask of thee, child, to come to thy senses? Knowest thou whom my words concern? Has each taken hold of thy mind? Has it penetrated into the heart of thy thoughts? Have I only thee, who didst listen to me? Do I find me in thee? Does someone speak in thy heart, whom I regard as my own? Does he love the one speaking in me and will join him? Will he be united with him? Does he hasten to make friends with him? Does he long to be connected with him? Does he find a certain repose in him? Has he a place where to lay his head? Is anything there to oppose him? Does he get incensed, pursued, hated? Does he go away? Does he get provoked? Does he turn away? Does he renounce? Does he move out? Is he troubled with anxiety? Has he any quarrel? Does he speak with others? Do others flatter him? Does he agree with others? Does something else disturb him? Dost thou entertain an opponent of mine, an adversary, a disturber of the peace, an enemy, a juggler, a sorcerer, a word twister, an obdurate, a treacherous, a plotter, a misanthrope, an enemy of the word, a tyrant, a boaster, an insolent, a mad, a relative of the serpent, an instrument of Satan, an advocate of the hellish fire, a servant of darkness? Does anyone dwell in thee, who, when I thus speak, Stratocles, could not bear it? For who should it be? Answer, do I speak in vain? Have I spoken in vain? No, saith the man who in thee, Stratocles, sheds tears again. 11. And Andrew took the hand of Stratocles and said, I have him whom I loved. I shall rest on him for whom I have waited. For thine ever intenser sighing and unceasing weeping has given me a sign for my already approaching end, that I have not spoken my words in vain to thee. 12. And Stratocles answered him, Think not, most blessed Andrew, that I suffer under any other affliction but for thee. For the words which come out of thy mouth are like a stream of fire, emptying itself in me, and each seizes me and truly influences me. My soul is in that which is heard, and in anticipation of an approaching affliction it is chastised. Thou findest thy death, and I well know, a beautiful one. But when I afterward seek thy thoughtful care, where shall I find it, and by whom? The seed corns of the word of salvation I have received, when thou wast the sower. That they grow and spring up, they need none else but thee, most blessed Andrew. What else could I have said to thee than this? I need great compassion and thy help to show myself worthy of the seed received from thee. But it will only grow unceasingly and visibly spring if thou willst, and by praying for it and my whole self. 13. And Andrew answered him, It is this, child, that I myself saw in thee. And I praise my Lord that my spiritual efforts for thee have not fallen upon an empty soil, that I know, however, what he preached. And that thou may know it, tomorrow Aegeates will have me crucified. For Maximilla, the Lord's maid, will excite the evil enemy that dwells in him, and whom he serves, because she denies to him what is hateful to her. And he will imagine to comfort himself by killing me. 14. And Maximilla was not present when the apostle said this. Having heard the words of his reply, and having in manner collected herself and decided as the words demanded, she gave up every worldly enjoyment of life, and fully decided, she went straightway to the praetorium. Aegeates made the same request, which she was to consider, whether she would not share with him his couch. And as she refused, he plotted to kill Andrew, and reflected which capital punishment he was to inflict. And having made up his mind to the death upon the cross, he went away and had a banquet with his equals. But Maximilla, the Lord going before her in the form of Andrew, went with Iphidamia to the prison. And when a great number of brethren had met, Andrew felt compelled to speak thus. 15. I was sent, dear brethren, by the Lord, as an apostle into these regions, of which the Lord deemed me worthy, not to teach, but to exhort all men inwardly related to the words, that they live in transitory sufferings, if they rejoice in the noxious notions of their imaginations. To give them up, I always asked you, and I have admonished you to hasten toward the permanent, and to flee everything changeable. For, as you see, none of you is firm, but all things are easily changeable, even to the human character. And this is the case on account of the uneducated soul, which had gone astray to the nature of man, and retains pledges from its vagary. I therefore regard those blessed who have become hearers of the words, and through them, as in a mirror, behold the mysteries of their own nature, on whose account all things are created. 16. I charge you, therefore, beloved children, to firmly build upon the foundation which is laid for you, which is immovable and is unassailable for all evil ones. In this foundation take root. Become firm in the recollection of that which you have experienced, of that which took place when I walked with you all. You saw works performed by me which you must believe, such signs at which the dumb nature even would cry out. I communicated words to you which I should like to have you receive, as the words themselves wish it. Therefore, dearly beloved, be firm in everything which you saw, which you heard, of which you had part. And the God on whom ye believed has had mercy upon you, and will have his pleasure in you, and give you rest in all eternity. 17. But what will happen to me should not frighten you as some strange thing, that the servant of God, to whom God has shown so many things by words and deeds, should be forcibly driven from this earthly life by a bad man. For such will not only happen unto me, but also unto all who love him, believe on him, and confess him. The devil, shameless in every respect, will arm his own children against them, that they adhere to him. and yet he shall not accomplish what he wishes. And why he undertakes it, I will tell. From the beginning of all things, and if it may be said, since he who is without beginning came down into his dominion, the evil enemy who is averse to peace estranges him who is not his from God, but only one of the weaker ones, which has not yet come to full clearness and could not yet be known. And since he also does not know him, he should have been opposed by him. And because that one thought to own him and to be his master forever, he behaves toward him so that their enmity became a kind of friendship. For he often sketched pictures of that which is his own, to father it upon him, namely, of deceitful sensual pleasures, by which he thought to rule over him fully. He did not come out openly as enemy, because he pretended a friendship worthy of him. 18. And this work he carried on for a long time, that man did not understand it, only he knew it, that is, because of his gifts he was not regarded as an enemy. But when the mystery of grace shone forth, and the counsel of the everlasting rest was manifest, and the light of the word appeared, and it was seen how the saved human race had to fight with many hosts, the enemy himself, however, being despised, and on account of the goodness of mercy, was ridiculed for his gifts, by which he proudly appeared to triumph over him, he began to rise up in hatred and enmity, and to turn the tables upon us. And he has undertaken not to desist from us, till he thinks to have separated us from God. In former times our adversary was careless and associated with us, pretending a friendship worthy of him. But he was not even afraid that we, deceived by him, might leave him. But the light that rose unto us of the possession of the order of salvation has, I will not say, intensified his enmity, but manifested. For it brought to light the mercy of his essence, and what seemed to be hidden of him, and brought out his true nature. Therefore, dear brethren, since we know what is to come, let us wake up without being discontented, without assuming an air, without walking with our souls in his tracks, which are not ours. But being completely bound up in the whole word, let us arise spiritually, and let us all joyfully wait for the end and flee from him, that in future he may also be manifested as that, who our nature against our... Here the text ends. End of Andrew in prison.